Right, the Premier League is back, which means I can finally stop talking about Alexander Isak. So, today was Newcastle versus Aston Villa by the time you're watching this. I do tend to generally do a preview beforehand and then an actual reaction video, but I've been unorganized and I've been working, so I haven't managed to do that this time. So I did do the usual giveaway, but I put it on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. It's had like a comment because nobody follows me on X. So if you do want to be involved in giveaways on the times that I don't manage to get a video out, go follow me on X. The link is in the description. But generally, most of the giveaways are going to be as usual going forward on the pinned comments, on the videos. Also, just follow me on X just so I've got some friends on there, please. My prediction, I don't want to give an actual prediction because I can't bring myself to predict that Newcastle are going to lose. So what I'm going to predict is just a Joe Linton goal or assist, because I just kind of have a gut feeling on that one. Also, just because based off the last preseason game, which was the closest to our actual first team lineup, he was getting a lot of chances in that one. He just kind of messed them all up, but he was finding a lot of good space. But yeah, I'm not particularly too confident at the moment. It's not that I'm not confident for our season going forward. I'm just not confident right now because we don't have a striker, because Alexander Isak is a fucking prick. And generally, when we don't have a striker, we do look a little bit toothless. So I'm hoping and praying we don't lose, but I'm not particularly too confident. But yeah, I don't want to go too in-depth on the preview talk here because you already know what's happened. So I'm just going to talk more after the game. Like after you've seen the match reaction footage, there'll be more talk where I talk more analysing things after the game. Because honestly, even if I had time to do a preview yesterday, I'll be honest, I wouldn't really have known what to say. Because looking at our preseason, there was very little that was given away. So I'm going to spend more time analysing the actual first Premier League game, but that's going to be the last section of the video. But first of all, we'll just get on with watching the game. Come on! We don't fucking need Isak. Come on! No! Alanga! Oh, Gordon. Great positional play from Gordon, but just not particularly great execution on the header. Honestly, watching us right now, like if Isak was sat at home watching yesterday, which I'm almost certain he fucking will have been, a little rat. If he was watching us right now, we look like we have a better like balance of a team. Like I'm not saying we're a better side overall, but in terms of like balance, like we look better if we had a striker. Oh, Barnes, what are you doing there? Are you still onside? Oh, Alanga, what's that? Oh, Gordon. Okay, that was a hell of a hit, that. Villa look really, really sloppy. It looks like they hadn't had a pre-season at all. See, one thing that I'm a little bit worried about here is in the 4-1, we didn't look too bad in the first half. And then obviously it was the second half where Villa's squad depth came in. Now, that was mid-season when everyone was very tired. And also we do have better squad depth now. But the fact that we're not scoring goals here and we're getting chances, and we generally, as I said, look toothless without Isak in the team, it's just worrying. You sort of question where we're actually going to score a goal from. And obviously, Aston Villa have Watkins and Morgan Rogers. Like, we're capable of scoring from anywhere in the team, but we just generally seem to struggle to do it when Isak isn't playing. Because it's Isak's, as much as I can't stand him at the moment, Isak's game also just like creates spaces for midfields and stuff because of his movement. Really sloppy from Villa all the time at the moment. Don't know who that was. Number 7. John McGinn. Quality from Gordon. Well done. You wouldn't have seen fucking Isak doing that. Tracks back, takes the ball off. McGinn, was it? Oh, Anthony Gordon. Oh, Anthony Gordon. Oh, Joe Linton's got his first yellow card of the season. Of course he does. First game, first yellow card. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that as a first half. 0-0. I mean, I genuinely thought it would be probably 1 or 2-0 to Villa by this point. So happy for the first half. The start to this half has looked better from Villa, which was kind of my worry. They'd go very similar to last time. Fortunately, this time we have subs we can bring on. The fuck is wrong with Villa? That's an incredible ball from Tielemans, and just everyone's asleep. Have Villa done a pre-season? Go on, Gordon. Right, that's a red. That's a red card. Get him off the fucking pitch. Yeah, 100 fucking %. What's he fucking doing? Fucking pace there, mate. See that? How does he think he's going to get away with that? I think that was stupid. I don't think he had to do that. I think that's still a fairly hard chance for Gordon to take. And now he's, you know, near enough half an hour now, down to 10 men. Oh, did it hit? My gosh. Oh, so close. Oh, Gordon, what's the touch? Fucking... Oh. Oh, of all the... Like, I really want... That's exactly who you want in that position, to be taking a shot like that. And how has he spooned it like that? That is a Barnes finish. Seen Barnes lining up there and I got so excited. For fuck's sake. Do you know what? Coming away from this with a draw, I have to take it. It feels like a loss at the moment, but at the start of the game, this feels like a win compared to how I was feeling at the start of the game. You know what? I'll take that. I will take a draw. Right, so immediate thoughts after the game. I think the main thing that stood out to me there was Gordon. Obviously, I'm very kind of pleased with the whole performance, considering, as I said, we don't have a striker. And when I say the main thing that I'm pleased with is Gordon, it's not because, obviously, he was a great striker and he was amazing at filling in the number 9 role. Obviously, it's just not really ideally his role. But the reason it kind of stood out to me is the work rate, the amount of effort he put in that game. Because when you take into account, and I said this in one of my other videos, when you take into account that Gordon only a year ago was kind of unsettled by the fact that we offered him to Liverpool essentially to get ourselves out of a PSR mess. He was unsettled by that. And despite Liverpool being his, you know, boyhood club, he still acted with a level of, you know, respect and class. Obviously, Isak just hasn't. So to then see him going in and seeing, you know, that we're obviously in need. You know, we don't really have a number 9 and he's the best kind of fit that we have at that level. And I think probably knowing the fact that he's not really a number 9, he's given 110% in that game. Like, he was just non-stop running everywhere. Obviously, he won the red card off of Konza, but just non-stop, just running at everyone, you know, running at the keeper, nearly, you know, winning the ball off the keeper a couple of times with the press, just leading from the front, just constantly pressing, constantly, you know, getting back. I can't remember who it was where he ran back at one point in the game and won the ball off the midfielder when there was like a little bit of a break. But yeah, it was an overall like pretty good performance, considering like it does feel like a little bit almost like a loss, because, you know, when the team does go down to 10 men and you don't manage to capitalize on that, it doesn't feel great. But not having a striker and going into that game at the start, like you could tell from the start of my video, like I was very worried. You know, Villa are a really good side. They didn't really have any, you know, any reason why they shouldn't have beaten us today. They're at home. They've got a pretty much full strength side other than Martinez, and their keeper Bizot, like, he didn't particularly look like much of a downgrade from Martinez in that game. So I do think potentially we were a little bit fortunate that Villa just really weren't at the races today at all. Like, that genuinely looked like their first pre-season game. They looked very, very sloppy. And like, I don't know, any Villa fans in the comments, like, let me know, because obviously you've watched your pre-season. Like, I've not watched any of your pre-season. Like, I don't know, do you have any idea why you looked so sloppy today? Because there was a lot of misplaced passes, bad touches. Like, it just genuinely looked like a team that almost hadn't had a preseason. But yeah, considering everything that's, you know, been kind of labeled at us in the media recently, you know, the whole kind of narrative as if we were, you know, down for some sort of like relegation this year. Like, we've just got Villa away out of the way. Then we've got Liverpool at home next week, which if we had a striker, I'd be somewhat confident, because I think Liverpool are probably going to score. But as we just saw in that game today, it's whether or not we can score. And against Liverpool's defence, I think we probably can. But anyway, yeah, I'll go more into that in the video later in the week. But to have Villa away done with a point taken from it, and not to mention we've come out of the game with no injuries, so that's a positive, considering the last time we were in Champions League, it seemed that we were just getting injuries every fucking week. So that's one game down with no injuries. Only about 60 odd to go. But yeah, considering the media narrative that's gone on around Newcastle, as I say, like, people putting us down for, you know, finishing like mid-table and things like that. Like, I hope that that's given a lot of fans a lot more confidence in that, yes, we don't have a striker, but we are actually still a really good side. Like, you can't have a midfield 3 of Bruno, Tonali and Joe Linton and not be able to at least compete in pretty much every game. And then to be going into the season where we're going to be slowly integrating players in like Jacob Ramsey, Malik Chow, you know, we're going to have Visser, potentially Isak back. I don't really know if anyone wants to see that, but potentially Isak back. You know, we're going to be able to get them goals back into the team. You know, even if it's not Isak, even if it's another striker, whoever that ends up being. You know, then we've also got Botman to work back into the team potentially somehow, like Lewis Hall to potentially work back into the team. Like that starting 11 there is probably something like the sort of 11 that we might see, you know, a fair bit this season when the fixtures do start to pick up. And it was an 11 that, you know, worked pretty well. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about this season is, one, hopefully we won't be going into a Champions League campaign where every single game is the hardest game almost in the actual competition, because obviously we can't actually be put in like a group of death this year. Not to mention, obviously last time we had, you know, a very hard cup run. I think we had like Man City, Chelsea. So overall, hopefully the fixture schedule is a little bit nicer. We'll get the Champions League draw soon. And yeah, I don't know. I think that game's just given me a lot of optimism for this season. We just really need to get the whole striker situation sorted. I think there might be a few fans from that game that were maybe a little bit disappointed with Alanga. I don't think Alanga had the particularly best game then. I think Alanga is going to be one where give it like, you know, a few weeks and I think he'll come into his element. You know, you can see the ingredients there of a very, very special player. And I think once Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall have kind of done their magic on him, I think he's going to be honestly incredible. But yeah, the main concern I think that I might have for the season going ahead after seeing that would be potentially the squad depth in midfield, just because Willock is obviously very injury prone, Ramsey is quite injury prone, and I just think that our midfield is so strong. And I think, you know, our midfield is largely what put us in the position that we were in that game, basically controlling the game for most of it. And I think that, you know, obviously having Champions League, we are going to have to rotate a bit of that midfield. And if we end up in a position where, you know, Ramsey or Willock are injured, we might end up in a position where we really are struggling to rotate that midfield and having to put, you know, makeshift players in there, you know, trying to slot Fabian Schär in a like defensive mid or something like that. And, you know, that's something that I really don't want to see. So hopefully that midfield can stay injury free. But yeah, looking at that game, I just think the main thing is we just need that striker. We need to sort the striker position out. And I think once we get that striker position sorted, I think we could be in for a very exciting season, because that we can't really do too much off of one game. We can't tell too much off of that, especially as I said that Villa didn't look great. But you can see that there's been some very, very intense work done in pre-season. You know, even so much as all the different set plays that you saw being trialed, like there's, you know, there was a lot going on, you know, a lot of intricate patterns of play, you know, where like Alanga, for example, or Gordon would drop the ball into one of the midfields and straight away they knew exactly where, you know, Alanga or Gordon was going after that. Like, I think the main thing to sum it up is I think the cohesion within the team was very good, which, you know, obviously is no real shock because Eddie Howe, Jason Tyndall, just absolute wizards. And the other thing as well, obviously having signed Jacob Ramsey, I think that would have been the perfect game for someone like Jacob Ramsey. Obviously it's unfortunate that, you know, Aston Villa were never going to let that signing fully go through in time for us to be able to play him against them. And also as well, the way that Eddie Howe works, even if he was available, I can't imagine he'd have actually slotted him in that quickly. You know, most players, as we found out with Gordon when he first signed, most players take some time to be, you know, embedded into the kind of Eddie Howe way of playing. You know, that's why we didn't see Malik Chow today, because like it takes a while for players to be embedded into an Eddie Howe system. It was a little bit, you know, frustrating that we didn't get all of these players signed earlier into the window, but there's not much point in dwelling on that now because we've got the players in, so we just need to, you know, focus on getting them embedded in. But I still think having someone who is in that more kind of like similar to a sort of number 10 role, he's a bit more like a left-sided 8, but can sort of unlock a door in that way, you know, gets in between the lines, in between the gaps. Someone like that I think could have, you know, just potentially made the difference in that game. So it's unfortunate we haven't got him in time, but for the rest of the season we do have that player. We do have someone to kind of come in and do that. Although I do want to hear what Villa fans think on Jacob Ramsey. Like, I want to hear Villa fans kind of honest opinions on Jacob Ramsey. You know, is he a player that you are kind of sad to have lost? Or maybe not necessarily sad to have lost, because obviously, like, you know, you understand the situation, obviously, because of PSR making you have to sell players because, you know, you're not one of the protected 6. So I just want to know, like, you know, do you think we've signed a great player in Jacob Ramsey? I do remember back a few years back when Jacob Ramsey was kind of getting that almost like Morgan Rogers level hype that he's getting now. Morgan Rogers is getting now. And then obviously injuries have kind of like slowed down his career a bit. But like, I want to hear from Villa fans, obviously, who have watched Jacob Ramsey a lot more than I have. Like, what's your verdict on Jacob Ramsey? But yeah, anyway, I think that's pretty much everything for this video. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.